Hello, this is Will from JourneyWallStreet.blogspot.com. I'm here to do a trade review on a GME trade I was in this morning. So, bigger picture is I was short and I wanted to short sort of this pullback area, but then now I'm thinking it's a long. Well, at least that's what I thought today. So, first of all, yesterday it closed all the way down here, and today it gapped all the way up there on the open. So, let's just look at the trade. What I saw this morning was a morning wedge. So I was sort of looking at it like here, and I noticed that it was pulling back. So I bought some here. Then I added some right there. And my plan was if it breaks above this candle, 38.20, I was gonna add more size. So it did right here. So while this trade was happening, I actually had a video recording of myself that I already watched earlier that I said I was gonna buy here, I was gonna add here, and as soon as it breaks, I had a plan that I was gonna double my shares and sell into the high of the day. And that's all I said. I didn't say anything about what's my stop. Am I going to move it up? What happens if it doesn't break out? What happens if it comes back into the wedge? What happens if it drops below the wedge? What am I going to do with my ads? What am I going to do with my core? I didn't say any of that. All I said was, okay, I'll take profits here. This looks like a great spot to take some profits. Let's do that. And that didn't help me at all. So when this wedge broke sort of down here, I kind of didn't do anything. All I really did was, maybe my wedge was wrong. Let me do this. And then when it kind of traded down there, it's like, oh, yeah, my wedge is probably still wrong. Let me do this. Let me stretch this out more. And it broke down again, and I thought, hey, here's some EMAs. Maybe that's going to be some support level. Let me do that. That means I had to kind of stretch this out even more. And then finally it traded down below here, but at that point my stop was kind of below that candle. It didn't stop me out. I'm just going to hold it and see what happens. Let me move this wedge down a little further. And then once this happened, oh, that looks great. Now maybe it's ready for me to take profits up here. But of course, it broke again, and then eventually it stopped me out towards the end of the day. So as you can see, none of what I just said made any sense at all, and this was just a ridiculous trade. But unfortunately, that was my mindset. That was my actual thought process as I was going through this trade this morning. And doing this review makes me realize how dumb I was, and how this trade is even worse than my CME trade yesterday. And I thought my CME trade was really bad. So this is 2 days in a row with really terrible trading. And I mean, I had a feeling that it wasn't gonna go because the 38 was heavy on the offer. I mean, I kept seeing him sell like a bunch here and then a bunch here, and it just didn't seem like it wanted to go above 20. Well, at least not yet, because every time it would get above 20, it gets rejected immediately. And those are all telltale signs that it may not move. Another thing I kind of realized after the fact is, I mean, this thing had to gap up like crazy in order to make these highs, right? It had to come from, I mean, this is not the only move. I mean, it had to come from all the way down here. So we're talking about almost a 2-point move before the move even happened, right? So the chance for even more follow through after this, especially in a down market, was very unlikely. So this trade was destined to fail even before I did my pressing of the buttons to do whatever the heck happened today. So another thing I was looking at is, I mean, maybe if I had some type of gap play in my repertoire, that I'll be able to trade this. Because obviously I gapped up by a lot, and I think this is what you call I think a professional gap or a novice gap, whichever gap it is. It's the one where it gaps and goes, right? So the idea is, um, if there's a gap like that, then if it breaks above the high, previous day's high, then you kind of buy and you have your stop, I believe, either down here or down here. It's a very high risk trade just because, I mean, if the gap is down here, but I mean it would have worked in this situation, and some of those gap plays are pretty good. I just don't have any that I use right now, but that's something I do plan on learning. So the only good thing is I didn't trade after I made this trade. I kind of just managed my swings and things like that, and I didn't really attempt to day trade anymore, especially on my other account. So no bailouts, no undisciplined moves, just a failure of this trade. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.